Meeting of Progress and Development to order. I want to apologize for our location. We thought that we would not have a hearing room because of the Budget Committee, and then once all the announcements were sent out, it made sense to just stay where we are. So we're going to have a little bit of a non-traditional hearing today, but we will make it through. Let's go ahead and hold the roll, Chris.
Senator Justice.
Here.
Senator Curls. Senator Walsh.
Here.
Senator Sylvie. Senator Wallingford.
Here.
Thank you. We only have one bill today, and it is my bill. So I'm going to turn over the running of the hearing to Senator Walsh. I am going to go ahead and present from this location. The witnesses can come and testify here, and I will maintain my traditional role as a bill presenter and not a committee person, but I'll just stay in the same seat. So we're here today on Senate Bill 962. Senate Bill 962, Madam Chairman and members of the committee, members of the committee, is what I have referred to over the past 8 years as MONA, or the Missouri Non-Discrimination Act. What this bill does is it adds sexual orientation and gender identity to the existing Missouri Human Rights Statute. Right now, as many of you know, because I've been talking about it for 8 years, it's perfectly legal to be fired from your job because you're gay or because someone assumes that you're gay. You can also be kicked out of you can have your public accommodations denied. You can be denied housing, all for being gay or lesbian. So Senate Bill 962, what it does is it extends employment discrimination protections that are currently provided based on race, religion, sex, national origin, age, and disability to sexual orientation and gender identity. It prohibits public and private employers, employment agencies, and labor unions from using an individual's sexual orientation or gender identity as the basis for employment decisions, such as hiring, firing, promotion, or compensation. It also prevents individuals from being denied public housing or accommodation because of sexual orientation and gender identity. A few things that you need to know about what this bill does not do. It does not include small businesses under 6 employees. It does not include corporations and associations that are owned by or operated by religious groups. And it does not allow for quotas or preferential treatment based on sexual orientation or gender identity. One of the reasons that we're doing this is because it has been shown over the years that this is incredibly good for business. We've got a handout that all of you have received today that shows all of the businesses in the state of Missouri, including lots of Fortune 50, 100, and 500 companies that already include sexual orientation and gender identity in their non-discrimination policies. I think that in this day and age, these protections make common business sense. When we are trying to attract top talent from across the country, we want to make sure that we let everybody know that we're open for business. And I'm going to have some witnesses here today who talk a little bit about that and the importance of making sure that we have employers that are able to recruit and retain the best employees in the nation. I know that there are some tough issues that come with this. I know that we're going to have testimony today that comes from the religious community, and I understand those deeply held religious beliefs that bring them to the table. We have had several discussions on how we can protect even further the religious beliefs of organizations, and one of the problems that we've run into with that is that right now we already have a protection in place for religious employers. But if we wanted to extend that to the public accommodation piece, we would have to write into state statute basically discrimination against anybody. We would have to say that it's okay for someone to discriminate against someone else because of their race, their religion, their disability. And that's a very difficult thing to do. And I am open to any suggestions. I have put some of the top legal minds on my staff. I've put legal interns. I've put all sorts of folks on this. If we can come up with a compromise on that, I'm completely open to that discussion. Right now, our problem has been that you can put the exemptions for religious organizations on the employment side. It is virtually impossible to do that on the public accommodation side without saying that it's okay to discriminate against a whole plethora of folks. And so it's a tough thing we're trying to do, but I think that it's one that has, the public polling shows that the vast majority of folks believe that basic equality when it comes to employment discrimination and housing should be in place, and this is one step in that direction. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions from the members of the committee. Yes, Senator, oh, that's your
Hi.
roll.
I'm just sitting here. We talk about discrimination includes any unfair treatment. What is considered unfair treatment? Not being an attorney, I don't know the definition. Is there a certain legal definition for that?
You know, I have to be completely honest, Senator, that if that is currently defined in state law, I don't know the answer to that, and I will get that to you. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. And then the last question, I noticed we added, this is page 4. We added the words, the proprietor's residence. I didn't know what was the intent of adding the 2 words, the proprietor's residence.
I think that was an attempt to make this a gender-neutral statute, because you'll see that it previously said by the proprietor of such establishment at his residence, and they were just trying to make it gender-neutral, so they just took out his and put in the proprietors.
That's all I have.
Okay. Any other questions? Sorry, I'm trying to run the committee and be the
You
witness,
want
so
to
that's
call
not
your
fair.
first witness, it works better for me that way anyway.
I'll just let folks come down in whatever order they want. We've got a chair for you. Just make sure that you say who you are and fill out a witness form.
Madam Chairman and members of the committee, my name is Dwayne Simpson, State Government Relations for Monsanto Company, based out of St. Louis, Missouri. We have a witness form for you. And I also have a letter that was written to Speaker Jones and Pro Tem Dempsey in support of MONA that I'll submit that can serve as our official testimony for the bill. I wanted to, first of all, just say thank you, Senator Justice, for bringing this forward. We, as a company, we support this legislation. We understand there are a number of concerns that will be brought up, we'll hear later down the road, but from a company perspective, we've learned over the years that it's best for us, if as a business, to be able to retain and attract the best talent available if the laws and our policies allow people to be who they are. And we firmly believe that people ought to be hired or fired or promoted or demoted based upon their merit, not based upon anything else, whether it's their skin color, ethnicity, religious belief, or who they love. And so, for that reason, we've had a number of our employees that asked us as a company to step forward and take a leadership position on this bill, and so that's why we're here. We have about 5,000 employees in the state of Missouri. Because some of the communities in the state have gender non-discrimination, LGBT protections in their non-discrimination laws, some of our employees are covered at the local level, but in some of our locations they're not. And so we actually have an unfair playing field for some of our employees if they want to transfer about the company, and that's one other reason that we think that this legislation ought to move forward. You know, we obviously understand there are issues around the motivating versus contributing factor under the underlying law, and we're happy to work with folks to get to a conclusion on that, but we think that this underlying legislation should be passed. I'd be happy to answer any questions you've made.
Any questions for the witness? Thank you. Madam Chair, would you mind if I turned it over to the Vice Chair right now?
Not at all. That'd be great.
Okay. You're up next, so just be ready. We're going
I'm the ranking member.
Is there anyone else here to testify in support of Senate Bill 962?
My name is Ben Burkemper. I'm the Legislative Director for the Attorney General, and we proudly support this bill. Testify in favor of the House Companion, Representative Engler. And I know I'm new to this job, and I know we've supported this in the past several years, so I'm open to any questions.
Any questions for the witness?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for?
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Bill Gamble. I'm representing the City of Kansas City and Mayor James. Mayor James has written a letter in support, which I will forward to your office, and I'll just paraphrase from it, not read the whole letter. Almost got in trouble one time for reading all that.
It's Mohammed.
Yeah, I know.
We love everyone.
Can I come back? We think the Missouri Non-Discrimination Act is good for Kansas City and it's good for Missouri. Just this last year, our city's become much more prosperous. In just 1 year, we've had 54 new economic development projects, 3,000 new jobs. That doesn't count the synergy that's going around with Cerner and the 15,000 jobs. Just for the expansion of our streetcar, we've had, that could be attributed directly to the streetcar, $750 million of economic development moving forward. We think that since 1993, when we vowed to honor hard work and dedication by including sexual orientation in our non-discrimination ordinance, and again in 2007 we included gender identity, we think this strengthened our community. We believe that in the city of Kansas City, diversity is a strength. It's the strength of our economy, and it's the strength of our social structure. We believe that we have positive experience in this. We have a great track record and example of what this legislation can do for our whole state. We encourage you to pass it, and we enthusiastically to support this piece of legislation. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and again, I'll forward this to your office.
All right, any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you. Anyone else here to testify in support of Senate Bill 962?
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, my name is John Barget. I'm here today representing as registered lobbyist for Jackson County Executive Sanders and St. Louis County Executive Charlie Dooley, who both, as Mr. Gamble said, enthusiastically endorse and support Senate Bill 962. On the St. Louis County side, as the previous witness, Mr. Simpson, indicated, Monsanto is one of the great employers of our region and in our state. And companies like that oftentimes share with the St. Louis County Economic Council in our quest to bring new jobs and attract the best and the brightest from around the nation. That not having these laws on our state statutes hurts in us trying to attract the best. I think Mr. Gamble had some very good points with regards to Kansas City. I won't repeat those, but we are wholeheartedly in support of this bill.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness?
Thank you.
Thank you. How many folks are here to testify in support? Okay, just two more, okay.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, John Scott from the Missouri Secretary of State's office. Want to also go on record in support of the legislation. About a year ago, we changed our office's non-discrimination policy to include gender identity and sexual orientation. We believe that whenever folks feel valued and comfortable and confident in their workplace, that they do their best work, and we think it's good for business, and we're in the business of serving Missourians, so we're supportive, and we think it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon, my name is AJ Bachman. I'm the Executive Director for PROMO, which is Missouri's statewide lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender advocacy organization. As many of you in this room know, we've supported this effort since 1999, roughly whenever the first bill was introduced. Year over year, we've seen support, public opinion grow in favor of this issue. I won't echo all of the stats that Senator Justice gave you at the start of this, but I would affirm a couple of things. We've now passed basic protections at the local level in 15 different municipalities. That roughly covers only a third of the state, so a significant swath of our state is not currently protected. With these protections, some of these date back all the way to the early to mid 90s, when Kansas City, Columbia, and St. Louis, within roughly a 3-year window, passed these basic protections on sexual orientation. Always a constant concern, and I know the business community has always been concerned about the number of lawsuits that are brought up in regards to this. Since the early 1990s, records indicate that there have been fewer than 60 cases brought forward claiming discrimination, and none of those have been found for cause. So it's a very limited number of cases that are actually put forward. Discrimination does exist. Recently, in a report from HUD on a blind study done here in Missouri, out of 20 visits into elder care facilities inquiring whether or not elder, gay, and lesbian couples would be admitted to the facility. 10 of those 20 denied access based upon sexual orientation. That's a stunning number. You know, this is done as a blind study, and this was done all around the state, not just in the urban cores. What we're seeing across the country now that 21 states plus the District of Columbia have these basic protections is that it's becoming a barometer about whether or not a state or a local area is forward-thinking or not. Whether you identify as part of the LGBT community or not, people look to these types of issues to see whether or not it's a welcoming environment that they would like to live in. And I ask that you as a body support the issue.
Okay, any questions? Thank you. Is there anyone else here to testify in support of Senate Bill 962? Seeing none, is there anyone here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 962?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Jay Atkins. I am a registered lobbyist for the Missouri Chamber of Commerce. I'm also the general counsel for that organization. I am here to testify in opposition to this bill. I would like to start, if I may, though, with some points of agreement with some of the testimony that's been offered today. The Chamber does believe that policies that encourage inclusiveness and allow workers to feel secure in their personhood and to, can't remember what the previous witnesses said, but those policies that do not allow for discrimination are good policies. I think you'll find, I haven't looked at the list, but the majority of chamber members have policies in place to protect against discrimination, including for LGBT issues, and in fact the chamber itself, as part of our policies, have written policies that prevent discrimination based on gender identity and sexual orientation. That said, whereas we believe those policies are good business, the chamber does not support any legislation that will create a new protected class under the Human Rights Act and would expose our members and Missouri businesses to increased liability in the courts. So because we do not support laws that expose our members to increased liability, we do not support this bill.
All right, are there any questions for the witness? All right, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anyone else to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 962?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Ray McCarty, President of Associated Industries of Missouri, and just echoing the comments of the previous witness, we have the same concerns. We also encourage our business members to have policies that treat everyone equally. But when we open up new avenues for new lawsuits against employers, that gives us cause for concern. Whether it's a new protected class for veterans or whatever the class is, it's going to cause us a problem. So we have to be on record in opposition to this bill. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the witness? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in opposition to 962?
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Tyler McClay, General Counsel, and Registered Lobbyist with the Missouri Catholic Conference. First, I want to thank Senator Justice for affirming publicly her commitment to religious liberty in terms of having a religious exemption in the bill. I thank you for the conversation before the hearing. I want to affirm the notion that no one should be fired because they're gay. No one should be denied public services that are essential services because they're gay. I think our concern has to do with the public accommodations and those individuals in the community that are trying to live their faith in their business and trying to exercise their faith in their business, being compelled under color of state law to participate in things that they cannot do in conscience. And I think we see it in the photographers and the florists and the bakers and such that are being challenged in court now and having to undergo hearings and such as a result of declining to participate in same-sex wedding ceremonies. And so that's the nature of our objection. We talked to Senator Hart to the hearing, and it's difficult to craft language that does protect that right while at the same time not fomenting discrimination. It's difficult to do, and we want to try to come up with something if we can.
Any questions for the witness?
So you don't think that 1993's Federal Religious Freedom Restoration Act or Missouri's 2003 Religious Freedom Restoration Act would protect that part here, religious freedom?
The Federal Religious Freedom Restoration Act does not apply to the states. So we do have in Missouri a Religious Freedom Restoration Act. I'm not sure that it's broad enough to provide protection in that sense.
I'm not sure. We had our attorney, bright scholarly attorneys look at that and to see loopholes or.
Well, I think there's the issue of neutral laws of general applicability. And I think the current Missouri statute says something like state law can infringe on religious liberty if there's compelling government interest. But I think the next section having to do with, it doesn't say least restrictive means, it says something else, and it's not quite as tight as the federal religious freedom restoration. I'm not sure it would apply in the same way. There may be some language that comes, depending on how the court rules in the Hobby Lobby case, there may be some language that comes out of that decision that helps us with this, but I'll have to see.
Any more questions for the witness? Hearing none, thank you. Anyone else here to testify against?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Kerry Messer, representing Missouri Missouri Family Network and the Missouri Baptist Convention. But our concerns are that our current statutes dealing with these discriminations are all based on immutable characteristics. And we're adding in here a characteristic which is not immutable. It's based on behavior, particularly sexual preference. And it would require someone to broadcast in some way what their sexual preference is in order to be protected under this standard. We believe this exasperates a lot of problems. It actually could result in more discrimination rather than less because of the fact that someone's talking about their preference for sexual behavior rather than keeping that to themselves. We think that it's a policy that's wrought with problems in its application, and will have social consequences that are unforeseen. We're opposed to discrimination based on anything. When it hurts people, when it denies people services or access to anything. And I believe our culture is evolving, and people are being more and more accepting on this front in society. And we're moving at a pretty good pace, I think, as a society, at being more accommodating to one another. However, I fear that putting this into statute is going to create a backlash where we will exasperate the problems that are out there. Again, the main concern is this is not an immutable characteristic, and don't believe it belongs in the list of protected classes. Thank you.
Any questions? Senator Warren.
Could you give me just some examples, theoretical examples, how you might think might exacerbate the problem?
Well, if someone comes in and applies for a job and you've got multiple applications for a job, but only 2 people being hired, and someone isn't hired, they can claim that they were discriminated against based on their sexual preference when no one knows what their sexual preference was. And the reality is, and this is very sticky, how are you going to prove that what they're now saying is even the truth? Or whether they were just trying to get the job or they're trying to bring a claim against someone to have a lawsuit based on a false assertion that they are of a minority sexual orientation.
So your concern is it has all those other classes, and they can do that now with those other classes. And
They can do that.
we have one more.
Well, they can do that now, but when they come in, the man taking the application, the lady that decides who the job goes to, they can see what this person's age is, they can see what their race is. They know where these classes are, with the one exception of the religious liberty protections. And the only reason why that's in the list is because that's the one right that our whole nation was founded on. It's the historic right of our country. And that was the right that the other rights were added to.
Any more questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And all witnesses need to remember to fill out a witness form. Is there anyone else to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 962?
hesitate to testify against this because I really appreciate my state senator. And I've done this for a little while because I know that sometimes things are taken personally, and I really do appreciate her for her wit, her brilliance, her ability to get things done, and yes, I do. So I know she doesn't believe me, but I do really appreciate her. But I do testify in a situation like this, I feel very awkward. But yeah, I've been at this, I'm sorry, thank you, committee. It's so casual in here, I decided to start chatting. Thank you, committee. I'm Bev Allen, who's concerned with me for America, Missouri. And I'm here to testify against Senate Bill 962. And I've been a landlord, and I've been a business owner, and the free market really does work because I am a Christian, and I uphold natural marriage, God's biblical plan for sexuality, and all that contains in marriage. But as a landlord, we were brand new landlords, and we didn't deny, we just didn't take the application of an unmarried couple that wanted to rent one of our units in our four-family. It wasn't a big deal at that time. There was other applicants, so no problem ensued. And we chose not to rent that couple because it was against our religious beliefs, because there's no sexual activity outside of marriage. And as a business owner, I was a real estate agent, and I listed homes of gay couples, and I sold their homes, and I even sold them homes to live in. So, like I said, the free market works, and there was no discrimination involved, and I had a lovely time, and everything worked out. And as I heard arguments on the far side that sounded like the right to work debate that was going on over in the House earlier about business opportunities and Missouri saying we're open for business here. Well, and really, it is a great opportunity. Businesses are adopting the policies on their own, and they have every right to do so, and that is fine. But taking away the edge, if you're going to make everybody do it, then the edge for some of these companies that want to be trailblazers, we're going to lose their edge, and it doesn't really solve the problem. And I just put together a few, because I wasn't really going to testify today, cases, because actually it's turning out that these non-discrimination clauses are being held to business owners to really close them down as far as their opportunity to decide who they want to do business with. And we all heard about the baker, but if you go into those situations and you really study them, you'll find out that the florist, I mean, she had this gay man for a customer for years, and she did all of his flowers. But when he wanted flowers for his wedding ceremony, she said, "No, I can't do that. I can't participate in that. It's against my religious beliefs." And the same thing with the photographer. They were doing business together, but at that point in time, when it came to the marriage, that did cross the line. So we are opening up a can of worms, and I'm talking about the elephant in the room because I've sat in a lot of the education hearings this year and last year, and because education's been big on our plate, and we're all concerned about why children are doing so poorly in school, and the poverty seems to be a problem with a lot of correlation with the education, failing in education. But the elephant in the room is really married moms and dads raising their children, have high school graduates, and usually their children stay out of jail. When 40% of the children are being married to single parent homes, they're already setting up children for failure. So in 2004, when I was a part of the Marriage Amendment Act, I was told by the side, well, why are you heterosexuals so afraid about opening up marriage to us? And I said, they'd say, you all have done a horrible job of marriage. I go, yeah, you're right, we have. But we need to go back and fix those things that we've allowed to mess up natural marriage, biblical marriage, rather than going down the road and making them mean less and less. So I stand before you with the elephant in the room that the CWA of Missouri really stands boldly saying that married moms and dads raising their children will do the best for Missouri, for the economy, for education. And thank you.
All right, are there any questions for Louise?
And I'll leave this pile of just a few things I threw together.
All right, be sure to file the witness form.
I did.
Thank you. Seeing none, thank you. Is there anyone else to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 962? Anyone here to testify for informational purposes only? All right, seeing none, Ms. Secretary, please stay there.
Thank you. Before we adjourn, we are not going to have an executive session today. We will be having a hearing next week on a bill of Senator Keaveney's, and I do not know whether we will have an executive session next week, but Senator Keaveney has it requested, and he will be granted a hearing on a bill. I hope you all show up. It's about corporal punishment. Excited about it. All right, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn. You are adjourned.
Oh, yeah.